Hi everyone, it's Bigfoot here. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the 3 permits that are required for you to thru hike the Appalachian Trail and how to get them. All right, let's cover the first required permit, and this permit is the one that actually costs money. This permit is to hike through the Smoky Mountain National Park. The cost of this permit is $20, and let me walk you through how you obtain this permit.
Okay, well, to get started, make sure that you have the payment information with you. There's 2 different ways to pay, either with your bank information or with a credit card. There's no PayPal, so make sure you have that handy. So what you're going to do is you're going to type in Smoky Mountain National Park, so I just do the short way, SMNP, permits. First thing on the top here, Smokies, permits.nps.gov, that's where we want to go. All right. There's an advisory up here about some significant wind that took place a couple weeks ago in the Smoky Mountain National Park. But there's 2 different options. There's general backcountry permits, which is for your section hikers, your day hikers, and there's A2 thru hiker permits. Obviously, that's one we want. So let's go through this here and really cover what they consider, what the rangers in the park considers as a thru hiker that will give you the opportunity to be able to apply for this. So as you see right here, it says important. To qualify for an AT thru hiker permit, you must begin and end your hike at least 50 miles outside the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and only travel on the AT in the park. Hikers not meeting this definition should apply for a general backcountry permit. So there's your definition. So as long as you're starting before and after at least 50 miles, you will be good to apply for this permit. All right, now there's some basic trip planning information. I just want to cover a couple things in here. First and foremost, every thru hiker has to have a separate permit, so you can't combine folks and hikers and friends and all have one permit. You can obtain an AT thru hike permit up to 30 days in advance of the date you anticipate arriving in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. So let's talk about that for a second. The Great Smoky National Park is about 170 miles north if you are heading northbound from the start of the Appalachian Trail. If you want, and if you feel that you can get to the Smoky Mountain National Park within 20 days, within 3 weeks, which most people are going to be able to do that, then I would suggest to go ahead and get your permit maybe the day before you actually leave to thru hike the Appalachian Trail. Now, overall, your permit is going to be valid for 38 days. You have a total of 8 days to get through the Smokies. Thru hikers have 8 days to get through the Smokies. A break to rest or resupply in a nearby town does not negate one's standing as a thru hiker. So, if it was me and I was going back out there again, I would apply for my permit right before I left. I would put the dates of when I anticipate going in there, and as long as it's right around that date, they're fine. I mean, as long as it's not like weeks from the date that you set in. But if you don't necessarily make that specific date, it's not the end of the world. Okay, I mean, it could be out by a few days. Now, the other option, if you are someone that is unsure of how long it's going to take you to get there, or you're really concerned about making it in the anticipated time frame bubble, what I would recommend is for you to get your permit in Franklin. So Franklin's going to be one of the bigger towns that you're going to stop by and resupply. It's just after the 100-mile mark, and this is 70 miles from the Smokies. By then, you're going to have an idea of how fast you're going, how many miles that you're doing a day, if you're going to take maybe another 0, and have a really good idea of when you're probably going to be getting into the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. So what I wouldn't do is wait till the last minute and get it at Fontana Dam. Not that you can't get it there. I can't remember if you can actually print it off at the actual dam itself. You might have to go into town. So it's just a pain in the butt. So those are just a couple things that I want to make sure everyone understands. Okay, so we're going to apply for a thru hiking permit here. So first off here, it's $20, like I said. You can't change the number and party. Right here, I certify that I'm beginning and ending my trip more than 50 miles. We already talked about that. Now, this is your direction. Are you northbound or southbound? So I'm going to put northbound here. And this is the entry date. Okay, so again, whatever you feel is going to be within your time frame. Now, it has 30 days out. Okay, so if I was leaving today, I'd just say, okay, I think I'm going to get that on the 27th, whatever. And then you are going to fill out your information here. Okay. All right. Now, once we submit it, it's going to tell all your information. Now, these things are important. You're going to want to read everything to make sure you understand what you're getting into. Now, there's a few things I'm just going to point out. When the Smokies, you can't be cutting down any standing trees. Only use natural wood or wood that's dead and on the ground. Wrist size or smaller. Please don't write or draw in any of the shelters. Leave no trace principles. In Smoky Mountains, you have to hang your bear bags. They have bear cable systems at every single shelter. You have to stay at shelters. You cannot not stay at shelters. There is a lot of bear activity in the Smoky Mountains, so you do not want to screw with this one right here. And this is a big one. You cannot bring any dogs or pets in the backcountry of the Smokies. Now, if you are intending to bring in a dog with you on your through hike, go ahead and do a little research. If you have AWOL's guide, it's going to tell you about what your options are. But there are places that will house your animals that will come pick them up and then house them on either side of the northern terminus or the southern terminus. It's going to cost you, of course, some money, but you can't bring them inside the park. This one right here, so this is another good one. I understand that I must give up space and shelters of those holding reservations regardless of the time of the day. So I talked about the general backcountry permits. People that are applying for that, they have to apply for the specific shelter that they're staying at each specific day. And some of these people might not have tents or hammocks to set up. So in the event that they come in and they have a reservation, even if you got there before them, they basically have to stay inside the shelter. So whoever the last through hiker that got in would be then kicked out. So it's just the way it goes. For me, I actually rather sleep in my tent, so I always volunteered if I could. All right, then we are just going to click the last couple. Then we're going to pay now, and it's going to take you to the screen where you're going to put your payment information. So obviously, I'm not going to submit this because I'm not hiking the Smoky Mountains. Again, bank information or credit card information. Now, when you get done with submitting this, you are going to have to print off a copy of your permit. Actually, 2 copies. So when you get to Smoky Mountain National Park, on the northern and the southern terminus, there's going to be a little drop box. They want you to insert your permit in. So you're going to put one in your permit box, and then you're going to keep one with you. In the event that park ranger is going to ask you for it. And this is just their way, their check and balance that everyone that enters is exiting safely. So they want to just make sure and have an idea of how many people are going through their park. So, but anyway, that kind of wraps up the process with getting a Smoky Mountain Park permit.
Moving on to our second required permit, that is the permit to go through the Shenandoah National Park. This permit is completely free, and it is pretty easy to obtain. Now, when you go through the Shenandoah National Park, at the southern terminus and the northern terminus, there are permit stations exactly on the Appalachian Trail. Now, what's nice about this is all you need to do is fill out a tag with some information, how many people are in your party, a few other pieces of information, and then what you're going to do is you're going to rip off one of the carbon copies of that permit, put it in the box, and then you're going to attach the other permit to your pack. And that's it. No nuisance. You don't have to walk off the trail. Doesn't cost you any money. It's about as simple as it can get. Well, the third and last permit that you need to have to through hike the Appalachian Trail is definitely the most controversial. And this is the permit to hike through Baxter State Park, specifically to go and summit Mount Katahdin. Now, both northbounders and southbounders have to have a permit in order to summit Katahdin. Now, this is a change from many recent years. So this is the newest addition to permitting on the Appalachian Trail. and is really because of a lot of the tensions between Baxter State Park and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. The popularity of the Appalachian Trail has continued to grow year after year after year. Now, these tensions between Baxter State Park and the Appalachian Trail Conservancy really came to head back in 2015 when ultra marathon runner Scott Jurek broke the AT supported record and celebrated on top of Mount Katahdin with a handful or a couple handfuls of supporters. And since then, these tensions have continued to escalate and now created this permitting issue that Baxter State Park requires all thru hikers in order to go up their Mount Katahdin. Now, this permit is to specifically take the Hunt Trail all the way up to the summit of Mount Katahdin. And Baxter State Park is actually limiting the amount of permits that they're issuing to the hikers. Here is a breakdown of the maximum permits that they're going to issue this year, 2017. For northbounders, they will issue 1,350 permits. Southbounders, 610. Section hikers, 840. And flip-floppers, 350. Okay, well, you're probably wondering, how do I get this permit? There are two different ways to get this permit. Either A, you will get the permit at Katahdin Stream Campground, which pretty much for every single northbounder, that's where you're going to go because it is directly on the Appalachian Trail. What you're going to do is you're going to go into the ranger station. You're going to tell them that you are a thru hiker and you want to summit Katahdin. All you need to do is give them your trail name, your real name, and your contact information. They'll give you a little card that tells you that you have access or privilege to be able to summit Katahdin. The second option is to go to Baxter State Park headquarters, which is in Millinocket, Maine. Now, southbounders, I strongly recommend that's probably where you want to go because likely you are going to stay in Millinocket the night before you go into Baxter State Park, and you can get that out of the way. Now, to get a permit, you have to do it in person. This is not something you do over the phone. This is not something you can do over the internet. So what happens if all the permits have been issued? Are you screwed? So no, it does become more of a nuisance though. So in the event that all the permits have been issued, you can either A, try to get a campsite reservation within Baxter State Park, or B, you're going to have to compete for day use permits at the Baxter State Park trailheads, just like every other day use visitor. Now, I am going to put a link to the official rules from Baxter State Park so you can read up and it'll answer probably 99% of the questions that you have. All right, well, that wraps up the 3 permits required to thru hike the Appalachian Trail. Your Smokies permit, your Shenandoah's permit, and your permit at Baxter State Park to summit Katahdin. All right, guys, so that wraps it up. Stay tuned for more Bigfoot sightings, and remember to subscribe and always follow Bigfoot.